Welcome to First Time Watching. Seyfried and Sweeney have teamed up to deliver one of the most twisted and surprisingly strong thrillers of the year with The Housemaid. But you didn't click on this video just for that. You want an explanation of the ending and, of course, know whether we can expect a sequel. And we'll get into all of that right after the movie recap. Millie arrives at the Winchester estate for a job interview as their new housemaid. There, she meets Nina, the rich trophy wife of the house. Nina is thrilled with Millie. Her job will be to cook, clean, and help Nina take care of their daughter, Cecilia. Andrew, Nina's husband, is a tech bro and is a real stickler about everything being perfect. And with Nina having a bun in the oven, she won't be able to keep the house up to his standards much longer. But being the smart wife she is, she hasn't even told her husband about the pregnancy yet, just the housemaid she met 5 minutes ago. It's time to see Millie's room in the attic, and she loves it. After the interview, they say their goodbyes, and Nina promises to call her to let her know if she's got the job. The moment Millie gets into her car, she assumes it's over. One background check, and Nina will realize it's all a lie. She lied on her resume, and she doesn't need glasses. Millie actually lives in her car and desperately needs this job. The next day, just when the police tell her to move her car, her phone rings. It's Nina. She's got the job, so Millie rushes over there to find the house in complete shambles. Nina tells her to start cleaning the swine stall immediately. When she's just about finished, Cecilia and Andrew arrive home. Andrew clearly didn't get the memo that Nina hired a maid. It's dinner time. Millie heads up to her room. They invite her to join them, but she says she wants to settle in first. That's when she notices something unsettling. There's a lock on the outside of her door, and the windows don't open, which is not suspicious at all. Luckily, Nina walks in with food to distract us from that. Millie asks Nina to fix the window and to give her a key. Nina agrees. It is creepy and says she'll handle it. To welcome her, Nina gives Millie a brand new iPhone linked to the family credit card for grocery shopping. The next morning, Millie oversleeps. Downstairs, Nina is screaming. She is throwing a full-on toddler tantrum. She's convinced Millie threw away her notes while cleaning. Andrew tries to calm his wife down from her hissy fit. Andrew offers to help Millie clean up his wife's mess, but she tells him to focus on Cecilia. That's when Millie meets Enzo, the groundskeeper. He tries to tell her something, but as soon as he sees Nina upstairs, he gets all awkward and acts like he doesn't know English. Later in the kitchen, Andrew compliments Millie's cooking. Cecilia, unfortunately, takes after her mother and treats Millie terribly and has some weird trauma about orange juice being a privilege. Upstairs, Millie is busy gooning to Andrew's Facebook when he knocks. He brought a cupcake and gently tucks her hair behind her ear, and that's when she wakes up from the wettest dream imaginable. The next morning, it's Saturday. Saturday is supposed to be Millie's day off, but Nina stops her. She claims Millie throwing away her notes caused her stress, so she needs her today. Millie begs to go. She has a meeting. Luckily, Andrew intervenes and tells Nina to let her leave. Millie's meeting is with her probation officer. She tells her that if she loses this job, she'll serve the remainder of her 15-year sentence. On her way out, Nina calls and demands she pick Cecilia up from ballet without telling her where the fuck this ballet class is. Millie finds the place just in time. There, she meets Patrice, who was supposed to take Cecilia for a sleepover, which means that Nina is messing with her on purpose. When Millie returns home, Nina's mother-in-law is there. She came to gift her perfect golden boy her heirloom china. That night, Millie sneaks downstairs to Andrew's man cave to watch TV. He joins her. They talk about their families. He tells Millie that Nina's parents died in a house fire and only Nina survived. Nina walks in and catches them talking. She's furious. Andrew chickens out and basically leaves Millie to fight for herself. Nina tells Millie this isn't working and she should pack before Cecilia wakes up, but Millie begs for another chance, so Nina gives her one last chance, as long as she stays away from her husband. The next morning, Nina hosts a tea party. While she steps out, Millie overhears Nina's friends gossiping. They say that Nina is a crazy brokey who spent 9 months in a psych ward, and Andrew is a hot saint for staying with her. That night, Nina barges into Millie's room to tell her that afternoon wasn't a complete disaster, and she has to babysit again on Saturday. So that Saturday, while bonding with Cecilia, Millie finds her little troll doll in her dollhouse attic. Millie is angry and tells Cecilia she shouldn't steal stuff from the attic, and Cecilia tells Millie she shouldn't be in that attic. But that's when Nina and Andrew storm in. Nina is crying. So Andrew explains to Millie that they just came back from the doctor who told her she isn't pregnant. He would love to have kids of his own because Cecilia is someone else's crutch goblin. That night, Millie wakes up because Nina has a violent breakdown. She opens the door while holding a shard of glass. Andrew calmly disarms her and acts like nothing happened. But that next morning, Nina finally apologizes for lying about being pregnant. She gives Millie her expensive clothes and asks her to arrange romantic plans for her and Andrew. So she gets them musical tickets and arranges a hotel room. That next day at ballet, another nanny tells Millie Nina once tried to drown Cecilia. That's why she was in the loony bin. And when she returns, after learning that shocking news, Nina gaslights Millie some more by claiming that she booked expensive tickets without her permission. Andrew tells her to calm her tits. He'll call the credit card company to get their money back. But that weekend, Nina leaves for camp with Cecilia, so she leaves Millie and Andrew alone. He asks her to attend the musical with him, so she does. After they have dinner and dance, and then they go to the hotel, but they get separate rooms until Nina bombards Millie with calls about firing her. Millie asks Andrew for help, and he promises her not to worry. And then we get to see the reasons why they hired Sweeney for this role. But the morning after she auditioned for the Bang Bus, Andrew receives a message that Nina is going to return early. They beat her home, but during dinner, Nina wonders where Millie learned to cook. Was it in prison? Andrew looks shocked, but Nina continues that 10 years in prison teaches you things. And then she tells Millie to use her car from now on because hers is trash. So Millie takes her car on a shopping trip where she runs into one of Nina's friends who is wondering why Millie accepted the iPhone, because that's something rich people give to monitor their housemaids. That's when she realizes that Nina already knows she banged her husband. While loading the groceries, the police arrest her for stealing Nina's car. Luckily for her, Andrew swoops in and butters up the cops. On the ride back, she apologizes for not telling him about prison and that Nina knows about their affair. So together they confront Nina when they get back, where Andrew tells Nina to get out of his house because he wants to nail Millie now. She leaves, and Andrew and Millie get right back to blowing her back out. They both have the best times of their lives until Enzo scares the living shit out of Millie. Andrew walks outside and fires him on the spot. Because of him, she accidentally dropped one of his mommy's expensive plates. After some time, Andrew comes back home with dinner, but wants some sexy time first. So he takes Millie up to the attic. They drink champagne and then get to it. But then sometime later, she wakes up and the room is empty. Andrew is gone and the door is locked. Through the door, Andrew tells her he'll let her out, but not yet. We cut back to Nina, crying in her car. She is free and couldn't be happier because she freaking hates Andrew. She explains that she was indeed a bad mother. But what do you expect from a girl without parents? And after that married professor knocked her up, her life path became limited. And that's when she met Andrew. He was perfect. And even though the fact that he built some prince's castle for his ex should have been a massive red flag, she did not see any of it. But that all changed after the first time she found herself in that attic. He asked her many times to go to the hairdresser and get her hair fixed, but she couldn't find the time, which brings him great shame. He tells her to pluck 100 hairs from her scalp with the roots still intact and to put them in an envelope. He left her without food, just 3 bottles of water and a bucket to pee in. So in the end, if she ever wanted to see her daughter again, she had to abide, so she did what he asked. After she finally got it right, Andrew opened the door and gave her some more water, and after she drank, she ran straight to Cecilia, but the water was drugged and she collapses right in front of her daughter. When she wakes up, she hears the water running in the bathroom, so she ran over and found Cecilia in the bath. The police is already right behind her. Nina was never crazy, but nobody would believe her that her husband is a sadistic monster. Andrew always wanted his own kids, but there was no way in hell that she was going to let him plant his evil seed inside of her. So she got her tubes tied in secret and blackmailed the doctor into lying to Andrew about it. Enzo was her only lifeline. He tried to help her escape, but without success, and that's when Nina figured it out. Andrew has a weakness. The only way for her to escape would be if Andrew comes to the decision himself. So that's why she hired Millie. She was perfect, a pretty woman with a past in prison, so Nina wouldn't feel guilty for putting her in that position. But once she met Millie, Nina came up with an even better plan. If anyone can take on her husband, and it has to be Millie. She's a fighter. Meanwhile, Millie is still locked up when Andrew returns. He is angry because Millie dropped his precious heirloom porcelain like a careless child, and on top of that, she didn't even clean the shards before shoving them into a bag. He explains that family heirlooms are a privilege and hands her a broken shard under the door. He commands her to carve 21 cuts onto her stomach, 1 for every shard the plate broke into. That's when Millie realizes that Nina planned this, because the guy she murdered was just like Andrew, a good-looking hard-working rich boy that tried to force himself upon her roommate, so she bashed his head in and got herself 15 years in prison. She made parole after 10 and learned that, in the end, there is usually only one way out for girls like her, and that's to accept what is happening. So she cuts herself 21 times to get back her freedom. Meanwhile, Nina went to Cecilia's camp to pick her up so they could escape together. They are finally free, but Cecilia isn't a fan of Nina's plan and wants Millie to be safe too. That next morning, Andrew wakes Millie. He tells her he wants a life with her, but she has to take accountability. But some time ago, Nina hid a cheese knife in the attic and Millie found it, so she stabs Andrew in the neck and runs away. She locks the doors, and now the roles are reversed. While enjoying some peace and quiet, Millie has a great idea. So she collects all Andrew's heirloom china, some pliers, and a can of gasoline and makes her way up to the attic. He asks her to let him out, and she tells him she will, just not yet. He needs to do something for her first. She slides the pliers under the door and tells him she needs him to pull out his front tooth, which will ruin that killer smile of him that his mommy loves so much. He refuses, so she takes some of his precious porcelain and throws it on the ground. She tells him that if he wants it to stop, all he has to do is pull out that tooth. He threatens her that he'll kill her, but she tells him not if she kills him first. Nina didn't tell him why she went to prison, right? So she explains it to him. She pours gasoline onto the floor and it enters the attic. Then she lights a match. Andrew begs her to stop. He'll do it. So he puts the pliers in his mouth and yanks out the tooth. She tells him to slide it towards her under the door. She looks at it and tells him she'll come back in the morning. But that evening, Nina returns. She came to rescue Millie from the attic. Millie wakes up and checks the camera, but she can't see Andrew. So she runs upstairs just in time to see Nina open the attic door. Andrew grabs Nina and throws her down the stairs and then runs after Millie. But she is a fighter, so she punches him in the face and hides. Andrew returns to Nina. He apologizes to her and begs her for forgiveness. They could both forget about what happened. It will be better for her because she'll never have a perfect life without him. She tells him that his life is a lie. His career was given to him by his daddy. His child isn't his, and his wife hates him. She'd rather be dead than stay with him. He wants to grant her wish, but Millie is faster. She snuck up behind him and pushes him over the railing down the stairhole. They both look down, and Nina tells Millie to run. She should not be held accountable for the bastard's death, and then she calls Enzo to help her make it look like an accident. The police arrives, and they question Nina. She tells the officer that she found Andrew like that when she came home. The officer asks her about the cut in his neck. You normally don't get those by falling, but then again, this officer actually knew Andrew. He used to be engaged to her sister until she showed up on her doorstep. She was never the same again. So with that knowledge, the officer writes it off as an accident. At his funeral, Andrew's mom comments about Andrew's missing tooth. She tells Nina and her fake friends that if you don't take care of your teeth, you lose the privilege to have them. Nina realizes that Andrew was just as much the victim as he was the abuser. And that's when she notices Millie. Nina hands her a check for $100,000. She wishes her good luck, and then her and Cecilia walk off. A few months later, Millie is at a job interview. Nina recommended her to this woman, and after she notices the bruises on the woman's wrists, Millie takes the job. So now that we've gone through the recap of this roller coaster of a movie, let's dive a little deeper into the ending. We can all agree that Andrew was the real monster of the story. He was molded by his mother into the man he became. She taught him that a beautiful smile rules the world, and that if you appear perfect, people will always believe you. It's actually a strong reflection of society. We can try to look away, but in general, life is easier for attractive people. For some reason, good-looking individuals are automatically perceived as more trustworthy in the scientific world. This is called the halo effect. Another thing his mother taught him was to be grateful and to take care of what he has, because he is privileged, and if he doesn't appreciate those privileges, they can be taken away. With that in mind, it becomes very clear that what he does to the women in his life was likely done to him when he was a child. Of course, that does not justify his actions, but it is important to recognize the patterns. Now, let's look at Nina. Throughout most of the movie, she's portrayed as a crazy psychopath, which is also a reflection of how society perceives women. For many years, men have decided the scientific truth, so to say, and they have always had difficulties understanding women's way of communicating, which is a lot more emotional. And because of this lack of understanding, women have been labeled as crazy or hysterical many times. Almost every woman has heard the sentence, "Calm down when she is just happy or excited." Men have always been trying to suppress women throughout history, and not because they want to, but because they genuinely do not understand how women communicate because they are taught from a young age to keep themselves composed. And because of that, men feel shame when someone acts over the top. And this is a two-way street, of course, because women always expect men to react differently too, which they can't. But the harm caused by that is in no way comparable to what women have had to suffer. So once we learn what's really going on, we know she isn't that crazy at all. She is a woman who is willing to sacrifice everything to save her daughter. And then we discover that she lured Millie into her home to essentially kill her husband for her, which in all fairness is a little bit crazy. After looking into Millie's case, Nina realized that Millie is a fighter and trusted that she would be able to get herself out of the situation. The only reason Nina came back was because her daughter, Cecilia, who was terrified of Andrew, begged her mother to save Millie. At the end of the day, Nina wanted what was best for her daughter, but deep down, she also wanted to be a good person again. And then we have Millie. She absolutely does not tolerate abuse. She killed a man for raping her roommate, and she is a born fighter. After learning the truth about her situation, she proves, especially in the moment where she overpowers Andrew and repeatedly smashes him in the face, that she is more than capable of taking care of herself. And of course, she proves it by killing him in the end. The only tricky part is that no one would believe them if they claimed he simply fell. Luckily for them, the police officer who arrives at the scene knows Andrew he once dated her sister. So she decides to keep her mouth shut. Now, for the finale and the setup for the sequel, Millie moves on to the next family to help take care of business. The Housemaid is based on a book and inspired by a trilogy, so the next movie would be called The Housemaid's Secret. It is already confirmed that this sequel is in production and will follow Millie as she continues helping women escape abusive situations. And that's a wrap. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.